semester, I took a course on the great American author William Faulkner. For my final project, I decided to visit his family home. The information in this video has come from the book Faulkner, a biography by Joseph Blotner, the brochure and other educational material provided to me as I toured the home, and class lectures from my professor. Faulkner's family home sits on 4 acres of land in Oxford, Mississippi. The home had been referred to as the Old Shagog House, or the Bailey Place, after its previous owners, and Faulkner renamed it Rowan Oak shortly after purchasing it in 1930. The name Rowan Oak came from the Scottish tradition of putting pieces of rowan tree over the doors to signify peace and security. The surrounding lands are still referred to as Bailey Woods, though they consist primarily of cedar trees, not oak. By the time Faulkner and his wife Estelle moved into the home, it was nearly 100 years old, having been built by the Shagog family in the 1840s after immigrating from Ireland. Upon entering Rowan Oak, the first room to the left is the Faulkner family library. This room actually served as Faulkner's primary writing space until the 1950s, when he added on to the home and added an office for himself at the back. The family portraits seen around the room were actually painted by Faulkner's mother, an accomplished painter. They feature Faulkner himself above the mantel, his father, his grandfather, and his great-grandfather. As for this portrait, I'm not quite sure who it is. There was no information on it, but if I had to guess, I would say that it was Faulkner's beloved Mammy, who lived at Rowan Oak until her death in the 1940s at the age of 100. Directly across from the library was the Faulkner family parlor. Several important events took place in this room, including the wedding reception for the only daughter of Faulkner and Estelle, Jill, as well as the funeral receptions for both Faulkner's Mammy and Faulkner himself. The doll scene there was a gift to Estelle from Faulkner after his trip to Japan, and the piano scene here was also Estelle's. Connected to the parlor was the Faulkner family dining room. Just outside those doors is a patio where Faulkner sat with Estelle, and she remarked, "Don't you think there's something different about the light in August here?" And Faulkner found the title for his first novel published while living at Rowan Oak. This is the Faulkner family pantry and kitchen, where there was a telephone, and rather than writing the numbers and notes down on a piece of paper, they decided to write them on the wall. The kitchen was unfortunately closed off to visitors, so that was the only peek I could get at it, but often Estelle and Mammy would work together in the kitchen to cook dinner for the family. On the other side of the house, we have Faulkner's office/writing room. As I stated earlier, he added this room onto the house in the 1950s and built the bookshelves himself. The reason why there's a bed in the room is because Faulkner had 2 accidents near the end of his life where he fell off of horses, and he badly injured himself, so he had to stay downstairs. As you can see here, he wrote the plot line for his Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, A Fable, on the wall. The back hall was also a part of the renovations that Faulkner did to the home in the 1950s and has been turned into a sort of mini museum of Faulkner's accomplishments by the University of Mississippi. First case features a quote from Faulkner that reads, "My own experience has been that the tools I need for my trade are paper, tobacco, food, and a little whiskey." The next case are some early editions of his novels, as well as notes and drawings of maps of Jefferson, The next case features some screenplays that Faulkner worked on, both at home at Roanoke and in Hollywood. And the last case features memorabilia from his U.S. State Department trip to Japan in 1955. The posters on the wall are dedicated to some popular quotes from Faulkner, as well as an entire poster for his Nobel Prize for Literature, which he won in 1950. If you use the back staircase to access the second floor, the first bedroom to the left is Faulkner's. As you can see here, the room is connected on the left to his wife Estelle's room, and on the right to his daughter Jill's room. The University of Mississippi staged the room so that some of Faulkner's most prized possessions were left out, including his guns, which alluded to his love for the outdoors, and a flask next to his bedside table. To the left of Faulkner's room is Estelle's room, where Blotner notes that Estelle stayed as she and Faulkner hadn't lived as man and wife since Jill's birth. Estelle's room is drenched in light, unlike all of Faulkner's rooms, which were very dark, as she was a painter. I'm honestly not sure if the painting featured here was actually one of Estelle's or if it was just staged by the University of Mississippi, but nevertheless, there it was. And another thing that I thought was funny was the air conditioning unit, which Estelle had added the day after Faulkner's death, as he hated technology. The next room is Jill's bedroom, which you had to walk downstairs and then upstairs to get into. And she lived here until she left for college in 1952. Aside from the scarce lighting, modern plumbing, and telephone in the pantry, this was the only technology that Faulkner allowed into the house while he was living: Jill's radio. The upstairs hallway features a cabinet with a wedding invitation that Faulkner's mother decorated and then sent back to the couple as a gift, which she was known to do, as well as a taxidermied rabbit head that was gifted to Faulkner. These are Faulkner family Bibles that were donated to the estate by Jill. And these last two shelves had bottles of alcohol that were found either inside Roanoke or outside on the property. Here, the University of Mississippi set up a slideshow of pictures from Faulkner's life. And here we have a quilt. I'm not sure who made it, but I thought it was lovely. And here we have a book of newspaper clippings from any mention of Faulkner. Some were even written by Joseph Blotner, the author of the biography I read. The gallery, which was once two separate rooms in the Faulkner family's original home, has been renovated into a gallery to display Rowan Oak-related fine art and informational displays. Collected here are a series of elegies, or eulogies in paint, recorded to celebrate what may often be overlooked. The flowers and branches had been gathered while living so that their natural beauty might be enjoyed indoors. The artist's introduction to the animals here came after their lives had ended by cat's claw or other accident. The muted colors and angular poses in these works echo the more vibrant colors and fluid movements that marked these living things when the life force still coursed through them. Such a contrast often makes one turn away or put aside, but by turning his eye toward these images post-mortem, the artist has chosen to notice and retain the waning beauty that remains. Down the hall and across from Jill's room was the children's room or guest room, where Estelle's children and Faulkner's stepchildren stayed, as well as any guests who visited Roanoke. I took the main stairwell down to the front entrance of Roanoke, where there is a little foyer with a guest book and a student worker sitting by the front door. I didn't want to record her, so I tried to get as much footage as I could. And that was the Faulkner family home, Roanoke. The Faulkners lived there from 1930 until Faulkner's death in 1962. 10 years later, Jill sold the property to the University of Mississippi, which is why it is now open to the public as a museum. If you plan on visiting, there is a $5 admittance fee for anyone over the age of 12 who is not a University of Mississippi student. Outside of Roanoke in Bailey Woods is where Faulkner was fond of bringing his typewriter around the property and writing. Some of the novels he finished here include Light in August, Absalom, Absalom, Go Down Moses, and his Pulitzer Prize-winning A Fable. Despite all of his accomplishments while living at Roanoke, Faulkner's life was full of ups and downs. When he purchased the property in 1930, it had been abandoned for nearly 7 years by the Shagog family. This left the outside of the house unkempt and the inside of the house in desperate need of repair. Faulkner had already gone into debt purchasing the home, and he went even further into debt trying to repair it. During this time, Faulkner did what he referred to as whoring out short stories by writing a series of them very quickly and sending them out to newspapers and magazines, typically receiving some sort of monetary compensation in the range of $200 to $500 just so that he could pay off some debts. Soon thereafter, he got involved in Hollywood, where he would write screenplays and try to make movies with weekly salaries that paid way more than short story publications could. Constantly seeking job opportunities and financial gain, Faulkner briefly resided in several different cities and countries. However, he always called Roanoke home.